Hi, boys and girls. It's story time for Spanish Fort Library, and it's the Wednesday before the week before Thanksgiving. And so today, Cupcake and I wanted to read you a Thanksgiving story and a Thanksgiving craft, didn't we, Cupcake? Yes, we did. And Cupcake wanted to show you something real special. Can you show them? Look, she's going to help me bring it over here. Oh, look at the pretty flowers we have to put on our table for Thanksgiving. And they're in a pumpkin vase. Isn't that pretty? Someone special sent that to the Cupcake's Corgi Cottage so we could have a pretty table for Thanksgiving. And I hope that you're going to have a fun Thanksgiving too. Don't you, Cupcake? Cupcake likes Thanksgiving. She gets to see her cousin dogs and gets to play with them, don't you? That's fun. She has fun with her dogs. So I hope you'll have a good Thanksgiving. And every Thanksgiving up at the library, this is the book I usually read in the library. Actually has a copy of this book, but this book belongs to me. I went to a children's writers conference and actually met this lady, Diane Z, several years ago, and she wrote the book about Thanksgiving because she found there really wasn't a book for children that explained how Thanksgiving started. So I like to read this book this time of year so you know all about the very first Thanksgiving, and you'll be able to maybe during Thanksgiving dinner tell someone about that. So the story is This is the Feast by Diane Z and illustrated by Megan Lloyd. And in the very beginning of the book, it tells a little bit about the first Thanksgiving. It was the year 1620, and there was 102 men, women, children that sailed on the Mayflower to America to establish a settlement where they could find religious freedom. And 2 months later, the Pilgrims, or what they used to call the first comers, they sighted land. And after weeks of scouting, they settled in a deserted Patuxet village in what is now Massachusetts, next to fields that were already cleared by these Indians who had been struck with disease. They named their new home Plymouth. The Pilgrims befriended Squanto. He was the only surviving member of the Patuxet Indian tribe, and he taught the Pilgrims how to fish, hunt, and plant corn that they had found. Without his help, the Pilgrims might not have survived, and the harvest of 1621 was plentiful, and the governor, who was William Bradford, invited Squanto and the neighboring Indians to join in a 3-day celebration, and that was the very first Thanksgiving, 1621, so that was a long time ago. And here is a picture that Megan drew of the Mayflower coming across that ocean. So let's see how Diane told that story in her book. This is the Mayflower, sturdy and strong. Her sails skim the skies as she journeys along. It's a big sail ship. These are the Pilgrims down on their knees. They're seasick and frightened on the rough rolling seas. Can you imagine how that must have been on that first ship? The boat was rocking and rolling. Some of them are not feeling too good. They're getting sick. These are the storms and the battering gales, crashing the decks and thrashing the sails. Oh, look, can you imagine being on that ship when there's a bad storm? That would have been a little bit frightening. Land ho! America, world unknown, a wilderness wild, a place to call home, that greeted the Pilgrims, fearful but brave, who sailed off to freedom through wind and through wave, across the Atlantic, so far and so wide. Thanks be to God, our strength and our guide. They were so happy to see land. Can you know, they were out at sea all that time. and never saw any land, and now they see land. I think it said it took them 2 months. These are the oak trees, bundled in snow, felled for the houses as bitter winds blow. So they have to build some houses to be protected in, because it's going to be cold where they are. This is the northern part of America, Massachusetts, so there's snow up there. So they're chopping the wood to build the houses, and you can see the little village where they're putting the houses. It's right by the water, so I imagine that would be very cold when the northeast wind blows. This is the hearth, soothing the soul, as death and disease take a terrible toll. So they would cook their dinner over a fire. Do you see them roasting a turkey and maybe making some soup? And here they're chopping some more vegetables up. And here a lady is sewing. Can you see that? And this is someone that's not feeling too good. And she might be reading them a story to make them feel better. This is the corn, a treasure of maize, black, yellow, red, and blue nuggets ablaze. These are the fields, stubbled unclaimed, cleared by Patuxets before the plague came, and found by the Pilgrims exploring a shore far from the baskets of nuggets galore that colored the gray, weary days of despair. Thanks be to God for the lives He has spared. And there they are harvesting the corn. And you can make lots of good things with that corn. They can make corn bread and corn tortillas. I don't know if they made those back then, but you can make different things with corn. These are the birch trees budding in spring, nestlings of robins and promise they bring. These are the Indians, fearful, aware, welcome, their greeting, approaching with care. They were strangers, and they didn't know if the Pilgrims were going to be friendly or not, so they had to be careful when they first met them. But they did find out that they were friendly. This is the corn seed planted in mounds, with herring to nourish the seed in the ground. So they would take the fish they caught and take the fish heads and things and put it in the ground, and that would make the ground. That was kind of like what would be nourishing to the ground, so they could grow more vegetables and more crops. This is to Squantum, or Squanto, his name, a keen-eyed Patuxet the plague didn't claim, who helped sow the corn, the colorful maize, and shared with the Pilgrims his knowledge and ways of fishing and trapping and hunting the land. Thanks be to God for this wise, clever man. So he taught them how to hunt and how to fish and how to grow things there in this new land. I have to turn the page. Oh, look. These are the elm trees brushing the skies as summer days dawn and pilgrims arise. This is the shallop skimming the tide, flashing with cod to be salted and dried. So this is their fishing boat, and they're going out to get cod. That's a type of fish. And you can see the village. You can see the village up here. These are the corn shoots, fountains of maize, weeded and tilled through the hot sunny days. These are the gardens, leafy and green, crowded with cucumber, spinach, and bean, that sprouted near cornfields threaded with vines of blossoming pumpkins and squash of all kinds, that flowered the cape that was nurtured by hand. Thanks be to God for this beautiful land. You know, my neighbor has chickens. Look, do you see the chickens in the garden? They help fertilize the garden. And it looks like a very good garden. These are the maples in the forest, the maple trees in the forest ablaze, where wild turkeys run and golden deer graze. Can you see the deer back there? Aren't those trees pretty? That's the kind of colors. The leaves change colors right now, If you went up to the northern part of Alabama, you might see some trees that look like this. These are the plums and cranberries tart, picked and preserved with gladdening heart. So they're picking the berries. They're probably going to make some cranberry jelly and some pies. These are the corn stalks, soldiers of maize, gathered in sheaves during harvesting days. Oh, and look who's helping to harvest. Cupcake, you'll like this. There's a doggy. These are the baskets of plentiful crops, spilling with tassels and vegetable tops, and brimming with berries and chestnuts and plums that ripened in forests where golden deer run. A harvest of plenty, all gathered with pride. Thanks be to God who doth us provide. So they are very thankful for all the good food that they're able to grow and to hunt and to fish. This is the feast that the Pilgrims prepared, look, and welcomed the neighboring Indians who shared in the singing and dancing a joyous 3 days of heartily feasting on mountains of maize and puddings and codfish and lobsters and meat of the deer and the wild fowl, all roasted and sweet and spread on a table of long wooden planks, then blessed with a prayer of heartwarming thanks for the friendships and harvest and bountiful land that was seeded and weeded and reaped by the hands of our hard-working forefathers, daring and brave, seeking freedom of worship through wind and through wave, as they sailed on the Mayflower, plodding but strong, her sails filled with dreams as she journeyed along. Look at that feast, the first Thanksgiving feast. Do you see it? That looks so good. This is Thanksgiving, a time to remember the friendships and freedoms we all share together. Look at that. And I hope that you'll have a good Thanksgiving feast at your house, that you'll share some good times with your family and your friends and your neighbors, if you're able to. And if you can't go to someone's house, maybe you can send them a Thanksgiving picture. And I drew this picture, look, for you, that says, Happy Thanksgiving, Miss Mary and Cupcake. And do you know how I drew that turkey? I used my hand. Look, can you see? I put my hand on this piece of paper and outlined it. And then I put a little eye and a little beak. And I drew the little floppy thing on the turkey, and these are the turkey's feathers. Looks like a turkey, and you can make a turkey just out of your hand. You can trace your hand on a piece of cardstock, and then you might want to send that picture to someone that you love that maybe you can't spend Thanksgiving with this year. So I hope all of you have a very happy Thanksgiving, and Cupcake and I are so thankful for all that we have and that we're able to share these stories with you every week. So thank you for watching. And Cupcake, can you say thank you? We'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Happy Thanksgiving.